Sail steady!
The storm isn't our enemy!
3 ships off the sails! Good, good. Now we know where they are. They really think they have trapped me. Welcome to my trap.
The storm that changed everything. The Atlantic Ocean. 11:43 p.m. 40-foot waves. Lightning tears across the sky. The cargo ship, the Mara, fights to stay upright while containers groan against their restraints. Then, a radar operator notices another vessel. No navigation lights, no identification, no radio response. Within minutes, 6 armed pirates hook ropes onto the ship and begin climbing aboard. The terrified crew prepare to surrender. But Captain Elena Voss doesn't order anyone to fight. She doesn't even reach for the emergency weapons locker. Instead, she quietly walks to the bridge, places one hand on a faded red lever, and whispers, "Not today." Seconds later, 3 pirates disappear. The others watch in horror as their own escape route begins sinking beneath the storm. Tonight, we'll uncover why one woman seemed completely prepared for an attack nobody believed would happen. Before we uncover the truth, tell us in the comments, have you ever been caught in a dangerous storm? And don't forget to subscribe to The Tales We Carry, where ordinary people face extraordinary moments and sometimes change history because of them. By the time that storm rolled across the Atlantic, Captain Elena Voss had already earned a reputation that few captains ever achieve. She was 44 years old and had spent the last 15 years commanding commercial cargo vessels across some of the world's most unpredictable shipping lanes. From the icy waters of the North Atlantic to hurricane season crossings farther south, she had navigated routes that many experienced captains considered unforgiving. Yet despite mechanical failures, violent storms, and countless emergencies, every voyage under her command had ended with her crew returning safely to port. Her record made headlines within the shipping industry, but it didn't silence everyone. To some sailors, Elena represented discipline, experience, and calm leadership. To others, she was viewed through a different lens. Whispered conversations in port bars suggested she had been promoted because the company wanted to make history by placing a woman in command of one of its largest cargo ships. They dismissed her achievements as public relations rather than earned authority. Elena rarely responded to the criticism. She believed respect wasn't won through arguments. It was earned one voyage at a time. There was something else about her that even her strongest supporters couldn't explain. Every week, regardless of the weather or schedule, she ordered full emergency drills, fire drills, flooding drills, engine failures, man overboard exercises, anti-boarding procedures. Some crew members rolled their eyes each time the alarm sounded, quietly joking that Captain Voss treated every voyage as though disaster were waiting just beyond the horizon. They couldn't understand why she insisted on rehearsing situations they believed would never happen. Whenever someone questioned her, she gave the same calm reply. The ocean never gives warnings twice. To most of the crew, it sounded like an old sailor's saying. But Elena spoke those words as though they came from experience. As the Mara prepared to leave port on what should have been another routine Atlantic crossing, she surprised everyone by ordering an additional inspection of the ship. Lifeboats were checked a second time. Communication systems were tested again. Even an old maintenance hatch that hadn't been used in years was inspected and lubricated at her request. No one understood why. Was she simply more cautious than every other captain? Had years at sea made her overly suspicious? Or had she noticed something that everyone else had completely missed? Within a few days, the answer would emerge in the middle of the darkest storm of the year, and every person aboard the Mara would understand exactly why Captain Elena Voss never ignored even the smallest warning. She grew up in a small fishing town in Maine. Her father captained lobster boats. At 16, she survived a devastating storm that claimed several local fishermen. including her father. That night changed everything. Instead of fearing the sea, she dedicated her life to understanding it. Years later, she graduated from one of America's top maritime academies. But becoming captain wasn't easy. She spent years proving herself in an industry dominated by men. Every mistake she made was remembered. Every success was questioned. Still, she earned respect because she never panicked. Her crew slowly learned that Elena always noticed small details everyone else ignored. And on this voyage, one tiny detail refused to leave her mind. A radar signal, appearing, disappearing, then returning. The unidentified vessel draws closer. Crew members repeatedly radio the approaching ship. Silence. Then, metal hooks slam onto the cargo ship's railings. Heavy ropes tighten. 6 masked pirates climb aboard carrying rifles. The crew freeze. The chief engineer suggests surrender. Another sailor wants to trigger the ship's emergency lockdown. Everyone begins shouting different ideas, except Elena. She calmly tells every crew member to remain exactly where they are. Then, she walks toward the bridge, not running, not hiding, walking. One pirate laughs. She's giving up. He couldn't have been more wrong. Inside the bridge, Elena opens an old maintenance manual. She doesn't need to read it. She memorized every system years ago. Her hand reaches for a dusty red lever installed decades earlier. Few crew members even knew what it controlled. She pulls it. A deafening metallic crash echoes through the ship. One section of reinforced cargo deck suddenly opens. 3 pirates plunge into a secured maintenance compartment. The remaining attackers freeze. Complete confusion. Nobody expected the ship itself to become a weapon. But Elena isn't finished. Inside the bridge, every second felt like an hour. Rain hammered against the reinforced windows so violently that visibility dropped to almost nothing. The deck below had become a battlefield of crashing water, twisted steel, and frightened voices echoing through emergency radios. 3 pirates were trapped below the maintenance hatch, but the remaining attackers still had weapons, and their smaller vessel remained lashed alongside the Mara. One wrong decision could send dozens of innocent people into the freezing Atlantic. Captain Elena Voss stood at the helm, her eyes fixed not on the pirate boat, but on the waves. She had spent decades studying storms like this. She knew something the pirates didn't. Large cargo ships and small attack boats obeyed the same ocean, but the ocean treated them very differently. While the Mara's enormous weight allowed it to ride through massive swells with stability, the pirate's lightweight vessel had far less control in violent seas. Elena took a slow breath. Then she gave a command that stunned everyone on the bridge. Maximum rudder, full starboard. For a split second, even her first officer hesitated. Turning a ship of the Mara's size during a storm was one of the most dangerous maneuvers a captain could attempt. Done incorrectly, it could expose the vessel to the full force of the waves and place the crew in even greater danger. But Elena never raised her voice. She simply repeated the order. The helm responded, slowly at first, then with tremendous force. The massive cargo ship began carving through the water, pivoting into a new heading. Its steel hull displaced thousands of tons of seawater, creating powerful currents around the vessel. At the same moment, a towering wave, one Elena had been watching build on the horizon, arrived exactly where she expected it. The wall of water crashed into the pirate's smaller boat with overwhelming force. Men who had boarded the Mara only moments earlier struggled to keep their footing. Equipment slid across the deck. The attack boat pitched violently from side to side as its engines fought against the combined force of the sea and the wake created by the turning cargo ship. Panic replaced confidence. The pirate captain shouted frantic orders to his crew, desperately trying to pull away before another wave struck. But the storm had already taken control. A second swell, even larger than the first, lifted the attack boat high into the air before slamming it down onto floating debris that had broken loose in the rough seas. A sickening crack echoed through the darkness as part of the hull split open. Within seconds, seawater poured into the damaged vessel. The hunters had suddenly become the ones fighting for survival. Over the emergency radio came a voice that sounded very different from the confident threats heard earlier that night. It was the pirate leader. His desperation was unmistakable. "Captain, stop! Please!" "We'll sink." Elena listened in silence for a moment, watching the storm rage beyond the bridge windows. Then she pressed the transmitter. Her voice remained calm, steady, almost gentle. "The ocean isn't taking orders tonight." As the pirate boat drifted helplessly in the crashing waves, another sound emerged through the storm. The rhythmic thump of helicopter blades. A bright searchlight pierced the darkness overhead. The United States Coast Guard had arrived. For the frightened crew of the Mara, rescue had finally come. For the pirates, the escape they had planned had vanished into the sea. Authorities later investigate every second of the incident. What they discover surprises everyone. Years before becoming captain, Elena specialized in maritime security. She had studied real pirate attacks from around the world. She knew exactly how boarding crews behaved. She personally requested that the old maintenance hatch remain operational during ship upgrades. Most people believed it was obsolete. She believed one day it